Alright everyone, tonight we're going to be talking about a basic introduction to derivatives as well as the power rule. So I'm sure most of you already know what derivatives are, but for those of you who don't, at their basic level, it's simply just the slope of the graph of the function you're deriving. Now, I know for a lot of you this is your first experience with calculus, and I know some calculus teachers don't explain things as clearly as you'd like or in a way that you understand. So I'm hoping to give you guys a more student's perspective on differentiation. So here, start out just with like a basic equation, y equals 4. Here's its graph. So you take the derivative, or as I like to call it, y prime. Now you can see there's no slope, there's no rise, there's no run of this graph. So you know its derivative is 0. And this is true for all constants. Even if it was y equals 10,000, y prime is still 0. Now, if we move on to something a little more complicated like y equals x, this is where you see we get slopes in our graphs and rates of change. And that's really what a derivative is. It's just the rate of change of a graph. So for a simple equation like y equals x, you can see rise is 1 and run's 1. Slope is 1. And you can tell just by looking at the graph, its derivative is 1. So y prime equals 1. Now if you look at something like this might be a little harder to see if the graph wasn't labeled correctly, if like on an exam or something. But pretty simple equation, y equals 1/2 x. You could see it rises 1, runs 2, slope of 1/2, y prime equals 1/2. It's a little trend starting there. It's coefficients of x becoming the derivative. And this happens because of the power rule. And the power rule states that if n and the power of x is a positive integer, then the derivative is equal to n times x to the power of n minus 1. So, as you see up here, so if we redo this equation is really y equals x to the power of 1. And if you derive it using the power rule, you'll see that y prime is equal to 1 times x to the power of 1 minus 1. And we all know that anything to the power of 0 equals 1. So therefore, y prime equals 1. Same thing here with y equals 1/2 x. It's just y prime equals 1/2 times 1 times x to the 1 minus 1. Therefore, y prime equals 1/2. Now, it's important to notate, I'll go back to this, that when you're writing y prime, you don't want to make your prime straight up and down because that looks like y to the first power. So you want to make sure you put a little angle to it. And this is common in most teaching practices. Now, if we move on to just a couple examples of the power rule, we'll see how it works with larger exponents. So here we got an example, y equals x squared. So using the power rule, we can see that y prime equals, bring down the exponent 2 times x to the power of 2 minus 1, which equals 2x. Pretty simple stuff. This is just the basics of derivatives. I'll assure you it gets much more difficult as you go on. So y prime, y equals x cubed, we'll do this one. Y prime equals 3x to the 3 minus 1, which then equals 3x squared. It's pretty simple. And then this works as well if you're just, doing addition between variables. You can see that y prime here is equal to 2x, 2 minus 1, plus 1x to the 1 minus 1. And then, again, we got a constant here, so that's 0. And then simplify it down, y prime equals to 2x to the first plus 1 and then plus 0. And that's the basic power rule for you. Any questions or comments you can leave down below, and make sure to like and subscribe for more content.